Hello, everyone. This is Greg Stumpf from the lovely Mecca of the National Weather Center in Norman, Oklahoma, and I am your host today for this edition of the Project and Community Owners Meeting for the Virtual Laboratory. This counts as our November and December meetings because of the holidays, and then we will reconvene again after this meeting at the last week of January. So. We got a lot of stuff on the agenda today, and we'll go ahead and get started here by listening. We're gonna skip over the Steve Smith welcome because he said he's going to be late. So when he comes on the call, we'll hear from him. So we're going to go ahead and jump right to Mike Cherma, who will be talking about building the VLab and what's new in the VLab in lieu of Ken Sprow, who could not make the call. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute those folks and hand over the screen to them. And give me a second. And Mike and John, you now should have control of the screen. Oops. But I can't seem to unmute you guys. You'll have to unmute from your end. Mike, you are still okay.
Yeah, we're good. Can you hear us now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Bear with me a second as I get on to VLab. I was looking at a screen of VLab and got myself all turned around. So good afternoon and everyone, and maybe a good morning to a few folks. No, good afternoon. It'll just be a very brief what's new portion for Virtual Lab this afternoon. So I'm going to go to the What's New page here. And this is something Ken showed last time around in this meeting. And so I just wanted to mention a few of the new projects and communities that have come about since we talked last. On the new community side, we have the CL31 project. This is an open project. Has to do with developing new algorithms for the CL31 ceilometer, for better ceiling measurements. This is an open project, so if you go to the communities page for looking for all available communities, you can join it at your discretion if ceilometer algorithms are something that interests you. The same goes for the damage assessment toolkit, which I think is a fairly high-profile project and application for post-event damage assessments. This community is also open, so anyone who's in the VLab is free to join. So if those are the ceilometer and the damage assessment toolkit are of interest to you, please go ahead and join these two new communities. There's a couple communities on the bottom there. I'll just mention ARLIT and OCLO that are private. That's also an option for folks who want a basically fixed closed community. Those communities are just invitation only and will not show up in the normal communities listings for people to either join or request membership. Those are good for, again, fixed membership groups where you don't necessarily want people to be requesting membership or just joining. You know who your team is, you know who you want on the team, and you go and get them manually as the community owner and add them manually. So that's also a private community. Is unusual, but it's not unheard of, and it certainly has its role if you have a fixed membership team. So that's also an option. On the right-hand side here, you have a handful of new development projects. local climate analysis tool. This is something that I added in November. It's LCAT. LCAT is a climatological tool that basically does a lot of number crunching with statistics and provides output in a very solid scientific manner. It saves climate focal points and others an awful lot of trouble in doing climate analysis. Before LCAT, there wasn't really a mechanism to do a lot of that type of work. Now there is, and it's made a difference, I think. And so this project will cover the long-term migration into IDP and also future developments. Currently, LCAT's on MIDS-B. Damage assessment toolkit imagery, just I'm scrolling down here a little bit. You can see on the right, damage assessment toolkit imagery. Just a part of the damage assessment toolkit project. Again, this is for development of the application. And so, I guess damage assessment toolkit is broken up into different types of sub-projects. And also down here we have, right here, Global Marine Distress and Safety System. And you can read about that as well. Again, these are development projects, and hopefully they'll help these projects along. Enhanced Hazardous Weather Outlook was actually here last time, so those are the 3 new projects, development projects that have been created since we talked last in this meeting. A couple new things.
Mike, this is Greg.
Sorry?
This is Greg. One of the fast facts I have for today is reminding folks where they can subscribe to the What's New portions. Do you think you can show that while we're on this page?
I can subscribe to myself to a couple of the portlets right now. Like for new project, I hit the subscribe button here. Folks can see my cursor on the right-hand side. It's subscribed, and I'm now subscribed. I'll be subscribed to this portlet, and so I will get updates as content is added to this portlet. I'll get updates when they come in. One of the things that the Virtual Lab support team is doing now is, as we add communities and projects, we'll add them to these portlets. And so, if you're curious about what new types of projects are coming in, and you don't necessarily want to just go to this page, you can hit subscribe, and I'll hit subscribe here too for the heck of it on communities. And so I'll be notified in my email of every new entry to these 2 portlets. Is there anything you wanted to add to that, Greg?
Oh no, that's great. Thanks.
Okay, great. And you can always unsubscribe too, by the way, if you decide you didn't want either of those email chains. By and large, we don't have a ton of new communities and new projects every month. I track these a lot for my Virtual Lab support team. We'll have in between 5, 6, or 7 new communities and new projects tops. So if you do subscribe to these portlets, you're not going to be inundated with all kind of emails. It's not really that much. There's slow but steady creations of these projects, but you're not going to be just totally blasted by all kind of emails. So a couple other things to mention, activities within the VLab itself. I'm going to mention a new capability that Mike Giebler has created, and it's basically a new portlet for team memberships. I think in past, I believe in past meetings, we've talked about the concept of teams within a community. Teams are like a way of giving roles to a community member just specific to that community. And it adds a certain flexibility that we didn't have before we had teams. Now here, I just clicked on help in the user's guide. There's documentation on the new teams portlet. And so you can go on the top left here if you're the community owner. Let's see here, I'm getting mixed up my windows here. workflow, and you can add here we go, a team member's portlet. I'm not going to do it right now because I haven't set up any teams for this community. I'm not the community owner, but it's basically a way for you to show who are members of your team, what their titles are, and so it helps you keep track of what's going on in your team, and how your team members are set up and which who's on which teams. Because there can be more than one team per community, there can be many teams per community. You can have many of these portlets on the same page if you want to. Some portlets are just one portlet per page. This one you can have as many portlets as you want, as many as you have teams. I'll get rid of that. That's again from the user's guide. I do also want to mention that a couple other VLab issues. Ken last time was talking about single sign-on capabilities between this portion of VLab and the Virtual Lab development side. That's still a major high-profile, high importance project, and work is progressing on it. So we'll keep you posted about how that's going, but the work is still progressing on it. And I also want to mention there's been work done on something called the Ideas Marketplace. This is something that I think the Virtual Lab Improvement team has worked on, and Brian Retsky of the Virtual Lab Improvement team is here. It's basically a way to document it and push ideas forward within the virtual lab. I think the Central Region New Idea Advisory Board is something comparable. And so Mike Ebler has been working on that a lot, and starting with prototyping, and hopefully we'll have something to show in the near future. But the work continues on that and is making progress. So that's all I have. Are there any questions?
No questions.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we have any questions from the audience, but at any time anyone wants to raise their hand, we'll go ahead and unmute you so you can ask. Thanks very much, Mike. I'm going to go ahead and, do we have a question? No. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and switch our presenter now over to Brian Moretsky from Eastern Region SSD, and he is going to be talking about the VLab improvement team. So I'm going to make him the panelist, and he is now unmuted. So Brian, you've got control.
Can you hear me and see my screen?
Yes.
Good. Switch this to presenter mode and see how that works. I did have one question for Mike while I'm setting up. It looked like you could subscribe only, for me, I was only able to subscribe to one of those columns that he mentioned in the What's New section. Was that the functionality expected?
Were you blocked from subscribing to one of the columns?
I only saw a subscribe thing in the new development section, not in new communities or new science documents.
We'll take a look, I guess, after the meeting at your permissions and roles, and make sure that everything's as it's supposed to be. That's not the behavior I would have expected.
Okay. I think I was just talking with somebody else here, and it's the same for them as well.
Okay. So you put the development, but not the communities, and not the science section on the left.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. We'll follow up.
Okay. This is a little bit about the VLab improvement team. John Ice is the chair of the VLab improvement team. I'm the vice chair, and to give you a little quick presentation to all that are on the call, and then demo a little bit about the VLab improvement team and our community. The first slide here goes into the purpose and scope of the VLab improvement team. We are intending to represent the users of the VLab, and we intend to help with VLab organization, look and feel, default settings, and improve those three things. Okay. So the VLab, to do that, we are taking recommendations, capturing feedback, and forwarding that over to the VLab support team, who then tries to implement these recommendations. Team membership. Gives us a little bit about the purpose. Again, the chair is John Ice. I'm the vice chair. John Chattel's on the team. And we try to make the VLab as easy to use as possible. And in order to do that, we have meetings and look at feedback that we've received or that the VLab support team has received, and go through that feedback to try to come up with some standard recommendations. The members are listed there. So there's a member from basically every region and other associated associated NWS, like the Water Center and the NSEP, and then there's also one from each of the line offices as well, or at least one. And then you can see a little bit about our duties, just basically to take people's feedback, users' feedback, and work on with the other members to reach agreement and propose changes to the VLab support team. And then the way we do that is we present our feedback and recommendations to the director, the VLab director, Steve Smith, and then he prioritizes it for the VLab support team. A little bit about our meetings, when we meet, and then a little bit about our decision-making process. Again, going back to the standards, present the recommendations, and we endeavor, whenever possible, to try to set to have consensus, and if there is no consensus, then we offer a variety of pros and cons with a different set of options. Suggestion form, I'm going to show this in a second, and the web page, and now I'm going to go there and show you what it looks like. So let me escape that and take you over to our community. We have a public-facing page and pages, and then we have a private community where we do our work as well. So the public-facing community has most information that we have, and has a bunch of stuff that provides the information about what our purpose is, the team membership. It has the suggestion form right there on the page. This suggestion form is actually located in a few places within the VLab, so that if you find that you want to provide a suggestion, you don't always have to be on this page. Sometimes if you went to the help section up top, I believe there is also a link to this form. If you look at our second tab, we've got the process, gives you an overview of how you submit an idea, what happens to that idea. So you can take a look at that if you're interested. Again, the suggestion form is right here. Here's the instructions that go along with it. They tell you about how you might add some documents, etc. And then you can learn more about the VLab improvement team right there again. I believe anybody can see the tickets, at least in a view capacity, and this shows some of the things that we've been looking at so far. Not a lot, but we're hoping to have more feedback as people start using the VLab even more and learn about the VLab improvement team. So I'm going to go back, and then there's one other thing. You can take our poll. How did you learn about the VLab? So that's a little bit about us. As I said before, I showed the membership. We have a member from basically every part of the Weather Service and also from all the line offices. If you have any feedback, you can use our forum, or if you want to, you can contact the member who is associated with your part of the Weather Service or NOAA line office, and then we should get that and let you know about it and prioritize it. And hopefully, if it's deemed worthy of work on and it's a good suggestion, then it will get implemented by the VLab support team. And again, you can see the members down here. I think that's it, and if there's any questions, let me know.
Okay, thanks, Brian. We'll wait and see if anybody has any questions. And none so far, but we've kind of moved a few things around in the agenda here so that we could have the roundtable following your presentation here and getting suggestions from the community and project owners. So
yeah, that'd be perfect.
We'd like to go ahead and do that right now and open up the discussion to anybody who has any questions. Kong Meng behind me is watching for folks raising their hand, and if so, we'll go ahead and unmute them. Brian will leave you unmuted as well. And let's see if anyone has any improvements or suggestions they'd like to share right now with the VLab improvement team. Go ahead and raise your hand if you have if you want to talk, and we'll go ahead and unmute. Let me call out one person in particular who said that they might have questions. I just want to make sure. That would be Tom Filiaggi. I've unmuted you. Did you have any questions or any improvements you'd like to raise?
No, as you know, Greg, the questions I asked earlier were just in regards to the bit, and since we had a full presentation on what was going on there, I think that sheds some more light on what's going on there.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah, and maybe Greg, for the people who are on the call, again, mention that if they have users or if they've received feedback, or if they don't want to talk about it here on the call, please submit the feedback, and that way we can take a look at it, because I know there's been, the reason for this team is there has been either complaints or feedback that the VLab needs improvement, and so that's why this team exists.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Laura.
So are all users able to fill out the form, or do the users have to go through the representative for the organizations?
All users are able to fill out the form. You just select who you may be associated with, but anybody can fill it out.
Okay, thank you.
So does anyone out there have anything they'd like to suggest for the VLab? And if not, I'm going to go ahead and unmute Steve Smith, we do have a question. Tom, go ahead.
I did think of a question. As I was listening to everybody talking, I was also exploring some things, and I was suddenly reminded that, hey, when you have a community, you can have a portion of the community public-facing and a portion private-facing. And then what I had done is I had gone ahead and requested membership in the VIT community, But then I realized, oh, wait a second, maybe I don't need to be a member because it looks like there is a healthy amount of public-facing pages here with VIT information. So what we're seeing right here, I would ask, I guess it's Brian, that's all public-facing?
Yeah, it should be, unless
okay,
it's wrong.
So then people would be able to take a look at the VIT tickets and take the poll and do the suggestions and all that stuff.
Yes, that's the goal, and so I realize, and I think this is the way the VLab is set up, that somebody might say, oh, I want to go join the community when they could just look at the public pages. And so we have once in a while gotten somebody who requesting membership, and we said, well, here you can look at all our public information, which is a lot of information, and go from there.
Okay. Okay, that's all I wanted to clarify. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Any other questions or comments or suggestions for improvements they'd like to share with Brian and the VIT? Okay. So as I said, Steve Smith is on, and I've gone ahead and unmuted you. Steve, are you there? Steve, are you listening?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
You haven't been at the last few of these meetings, and we always like to start up the meeting with a welcome from you. So we're going to go ahead and just squeeze you in right now. If you have anything you'd like to say that you've been wanting to get off your chest to the owners over the last few months, here's your chance.
Yeah, well, thanks, Greg. Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for engaging in the VLab in the various ways. We learn from people experimenting with the underlying software and trying new things. It helps raise all boats. We're not the sole experts on this, and we welcome people to try different things. And if they get frustrated or hung up, to come to us through the VLab admin, and we're there to try to help you out with a consultation or troubleshooting or whatever. But really, this is a kind of crowdsourcing exercise. We're all there are parts of LifeRay and Redmine and so forth that none of us have really touched. So we're seeing some of that with some of our users are experimenting with things, and that's great. That's what we've got this set up for, so that we can learn from different use cases and different experiences and people trying to do whatever it is they want to do. So I just want to applaud the project owners and community owners for taking the plunge and trying to do the right thing, trying to do something that is for the betterment of their project or for their organization or whatever it might be, and kind of mixing it up, getting your hands dirty, so to speak. So we've got a lot of new things that are on tap. I don't know if this was touched on or not, but there's been funding allocated for, I guess, the Comet Group to develop some VLab training this year. As soon as the funding gets over to Comet, I guess they're gonna that process will be kicked off, and they'll get at it. And I'm not sure what the rollout schedule would be for that, but that's a good thing. But we learn from each other as much as from formal training and so forth. So attending these meetings, interacting with us, interacting through the various communities is how we all get better. So I want to thank also Brian and John Ice for their leadership on the VLab improvement team. They're spending a lot of time to try to help out everyone in that, including at the least of all the support team and myself, because there's a lot of things that we can do, but it really helps when we get sort of independent eyes looking at the priorities to help us decide what to do first. So with that, Greg, I thanks, and I'll pass it back to you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Steve.
Greg?
Go ahead.
This is Brian. Two things. One, is it possible to take control of my screen, or take control of the screen again, so that I'm not...
I'm about to hand it off to Laura Catray here. So.
Okay. And the other thing, just to piggyback on Steve's comments, there's the differences between the admin and the support. The admin and support is, if you have a problem right then and there, they're going to be the ones to fix it. But if you have some feedback or you have a request, that's going to more likely go to the improvement team. And if it doesn't make it to the VLab improvement team through a direct suggestion, then if it doesn't make it to the VLab improvement team through a direct suggestion, then we're also in contact with the VLab support team, including Ken Spiro and Steve, to find out what kind of feedback they're getting. So that's all I wanted to say. Okay.
Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you, Steve. I'm going to go ahead and mute you two, and we're going to go to our next session or section of the session, and it's Laura Catray. I'm handing over the control to her, and she is going to be providing one of our short training sessions on forums in the communities. This is the way we discuss and organize thoughts and have discussions and things like that. So take it away, Laura.
Thank you, Greg. So you recall that the VLab is made up of the two main components, the development services and the collaboration services. So I will be talking about the forums today on the community side. One of the forums that is useful to all of users is the troubleshooting forum. Here you can post threads and reply to other users' threads. So I will go over one recently asked questions that were asked by users from this past month, just to show how you can use the forum. Anyone can come to this forum and post questions and reply to the posts that others have submitted. One of the questions I received recently was, how can I reset my password? So I would go to the subcategory in the forums, like a message board, and you would post a new thread here. And you can reply to another person's thread. So I would say resetting password. You could post your forum, your thread anonymously if you like, or you could put your name there. You could add a priority to it. Not sure what sticky means. And you could make it viewable by all the community members. You could also add tags. That's a way for people to be able to find it easily. So other people may have similar questions. They can find your question and answer if you add a tag to it.
Hey, Laura, what sticky means is that if you create a sticky post in a forum, it's stuck to the very top of the list of posts. It always sticks at the top.
Maybe I should not make it sticky, right? Okay. Now I would like to reply to this one. So for NOAA users, you just use your NOAA account login without without the @noaa.gov. We get this question a lot, so I prefer that people ask, and I don't want people to feel like everything is intuitive, so I don't mind people asking questions, and I don't feel like there's no-brainer questions. I don't want to put off the users by saying something like that, so I just prefer to answer people's questions as nicely as possible. Now, one thing I did forget to put here is if you have an external user do need to contact us in order to have the password reset. External partners are those without NOAA email address. A similar question can be, we've received similar questions from a community owner who wanted to add a user who did have a NOAA account. The community owner wanted to add a user to his community, but he could not find the person. It's because that person had not logged into the VLab yet. So that's a similar post. I would put that comment and answer it here so people can find these things easily. You may be able to find it in the search. If you search button, you may be able to find it in the form. I'll also show how community members can add this. So you can see different responses. If you want to find information about the reset, you can search and get a multifaceted answer. Maybe narrow it down if you want to say, find a better. Okay, I was able to find a post there easily. Let me go to one of my communities and I can show how a community owner can add a forum. So the forum is like a message board. It's a two-way communication between the members. One of my communities. Go to the forum. When you have a community, you automatically get these web tools, the wikis, forum, document libraries, and the blogs. The blogs are not much different from the forum, except the main difference is that it's a one-way expository statement. You could just stand on a soapbox and say something on the blogs, and no one responds to your blog, but it's a way to give people information. So for community owners who want to add a forum, you would go to your forum, and you automatically have this. You would add a category. So my team, we're doing the MDL web pages, so I guess I could just say transition or updating web pages. I'll just call this updating the web pages. And my team will be able to subscribe to this too. I can post threads here similar to the post I made in the troubleshooting forum. Here I can subscribe to that particular category. If I want to subscribe to all the categories, I would go outside of the category rectangle and subscribe. Therefore, I will be subscribed to all of the categories in that forum. let's take a look at a community that is very advanced, and that's the MRMS community. You see this similar ability to subscribe to their reports. You see the blogs. We can just take a look at the blog to see how it's different from the forum. That's okay. So it's a way to give information to the community. And this may be better than having emails in case you have users who retire or leave. This information can be used as a training document for some of the new users. I'm just looking through my notes to make sure I covered everything I wanted to show. And if anyone has any questions now, Greg, if you can you unmute everyone?
I will go ahead and unmute if somebody raises their hand.
Okay.
So if you have any questions for Laura regarding community or collaboration services forums, this is your chance.
Right. I think the main thing, in case I don't want to put people on the spot, they could either email, go to the help, if you want to contact us, you can contact us by sending an email to vlab.admin@noaa.gov, or you could provide any feedback, or you can contact Greg if you have other questions that were not answered here. And I'm glad that Brian gave his talk about the VLab improvement team. So I think the one thing, we don't want people to feel that they should know everything about the VLab, and we don't mind hand-holding any of the community owners or the project managers, and we prefer that people ask for help rather than to feel like they can't get any assistance. So I just wanted to add on to what Brian was saying. Did you want me to talk about the user profile, or you were going to talk about that, Greg?
Oh, I was going to finish up the meeting with that real quick. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't think I have anything else to say about the forums, but if anyone has questions, you could email me, or you could go to the vlab.admin@noaa.gov, and we're here 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 to be on call for anyone to have questions for immediate help.
And that would be 8 to 5 Eastern time.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Laura. Any questions for Laura before we get close to closing out the meeting for the day? Or any questions on anything else? Please raise your hand and we'll unmute. I got it. Okay, we have a question from Eric Howison. He asks, if this has been discussed, I missed about how do the new ideas and projects developed in the VLab connect into with the cards requirement process being developed by Andy Stern and others at Weather Service headquarters. Let me go ahead and unmute several folks that might have an answer to that. Steve Smith, John Shaddle, Mike Cherma, Brian Moretsky, anybody? Or if there's anyone else who might have an answer to that, raise your hand and we'll go ahead and unmute you.
Greg, this is Steve. I can give some information on that. So early on we had discussions with Cindy Woods and Carlos, who were in the sort of working the fledgling cards process and had been responsible for the old OSIP database. So we felt like we needed to try to make sure that when cards is stood up, that it could naturally flow into the types of projects-oriented aspects of the VLab. And that's basically the case today. We haven't gone any further with that, and because we haven't got a real clear direction yet from the cards folks that they're ready to move forward with that. I believe the Weather Service leadership hasn't yet signed off on in operational cards yet, but it's a good question, and we certainly don't want to have another sort of flavor of projects and things sort of off to the side that's different from the types of things that we would like to see and are asking people to submit to, say, the projects repository. So we intend to try to capture that in I guess the form that cards is eventually implemented in, but we don't. At least I haven't heard anything yet that is imminent.
Steve,
that's what I know. Go ahead.
Steve, this is Brian. I have heard that cards is a little bit more imminent than I think they were having some meetings this week actually on it. So hopefully you're able to plug into that. But also in regards to ideas, I think what we were thinking was that ideas would be very conceptual, very, very beginning phases, and they would be something that it would be before somebody got to a stage that they were going to present something to cards or to the cart, so that this could be a place where a breeding ground, so to speak, for ideas within the Weather Service.
Brian, you're referring to...
I'm sorry, Ken Johnson had his hand raised, but go ahead, Steve, and we'll let Ken chime in.
Yeah, Brian, were you referring to the Ideas Marketplace?
Yeah.
Yeah, was definitely the hope, and it's really a question of kind of expanding the, if you will, the project space out to the idea space, and I know Ken was very interested in that, and I am too, and it's so that we kind of get it at its most effervescent stage where things are still in play, and then as ideas become successful or not, then they would move into a project phase. They might move into cards, they might not. But yeah, the idea was to kind of get an early look and have that all kind of play out until one of those fledgling ideas became operational, improvement. It's sort of a vision that's tantalizing and very hard to realize. And the thing we don't know yet, but we're eager to try, is to see, can we create a space in the VLab where this sort of idea genesis can take place? Can it replicate some of the organic idea formulations that take place already? Because that's what we're aiming for. So I think I cut somebody else off at the, so I hand over the floor. Greg. Hello?
I'm sorry, I was muted. Ken Johnson had his hand raised earlier, and he's unmuted right now. Ken, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, actually I think Steve said most of it. The concept of the Ideas Marketplace was just to have a space where you could kick around ideas, you could generate ideas, you could find out who's thinking about what. in the evolution of projects to operations, I would see it as kind of the first step. From the ideas come the projects. From the projects, maybe you have to go through cards or whatever requirements process we might have in place. But the ideas marketplace is just intended as a space to kick around ideas, hopefully spawn innovation, and really probably nothing more than that. And it's a concept that we could see if it's the right thing for VLab, and see if that's some of the potential of VLab.
Okay, thanks, Ken. We also have a hand raised by Jason Chase.
Hi, thank you. This is Jason Chasse. I'm in STI. I'm a program manager, and then I have funding relationships with MRMS and Insight, AFET. So this is, I think, the first or second one of these that I've been able to make, and I wanted to say that VLab is a great space. It's been helpful and productive to particularly exchanging with the technical community, and I do think that it's an opportunity to let things foster. But I guess this is more on the policy side, and maybe this is more directed with Steve and the senior leadership. But this requirements gap or lack of policy for the cards process or any real requirements process other than what was done by TIPIO for the Coral is just it's a fundamental gap in weather service operations, in that if they're not defining requirements and it's taken this long to go from OSIP to cards, we're really stifling innovation. And I feel like there's a lot of really positive work going on here in VLab, and VLab can certainly support that. But in the absence of having a dedicated policy and procedure that can be mirrored, we could waste a lot of time and a lot of effort, trying to let a lot of things grow without really understanding or having any real corporate leadership on what should be happening. So maybe this is a topic for another forum. Steve, I'm happy to kind of talk offline, or maybe sit down with you and Mike Farrar. But this has to get worked out sooner than later, and from a management perspective, it's got to be almost a black eye at this point. It's been years. So sorry, that was more of a comment, but I do think at least the comment and sentiment is kosher to this community.
Yeah, Jason, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Steve. So it's a good comment. The thing we sort of set out and stated at the beginning with VLab that we're not a process. We're sort of an enabling aspect to the R2O in general. So if there's something that has been officially vetted and is validated as a requirement, and it's got appropriate funds applied to it, and it needs to get its job done, that's still a hell of a lot of work to do, and we're trying to make it easier for those things. So there's an inherent assumption that somebody's paying attention to the requirements for those types of things, whether it's through a formal weather service process or through some sub-processes or ad hoc processes that we have. In the same token, there's a recognition that a lot of great things, and I'm speaking from Weather Service perspective, but Weather Service and its partners like OAR and there's a lot of great innovation that takes place, and it has been sort of cast adrift in a sense that it didn't have really, other than OSIP, there was really no way to effectively move those ideas forward. Now we have a new organization at headquarters that has an Office of Science and Technology Integration, which of course you and I are in, and the leader of that, Ming-Chi, is trying to get his arms around that particular problem, and VLab is still kind of an enabling to help that along. But I agree with you. There is right now we don't have discipline in the sense that one might like. But I do believe on the whole, I think the SCNI and the creation of SCNI and the run up to that, we are in a better position as an agency than we were, like 5 years ago and certainly 10 years ago. So yeah, we need more discipline, but I think on the balance, things are probably better than they were, even despite this gap that you've identified. So I'll stop there.
So just one quick response to that, and then I'll get off my soapbox. So yes, I think completely agree that VLab is a great tool, and it could only be better if we had a clear policy. So maybe we could follow up with maybe Mike, and then up to Ming, and then over to AFS. But kosher to this forum, perhaps we could invite some of the AFS folks to give us some feedback. There's a lot of rumors or rumbling that the cards and some other planning frameworks are being worked on, and from personal experience, going through a lot of major corporate reorganizations and policy changes, having the technology kind of moving in that same direction. Even if there's a couple different contingencies, getting some feedback as to, we talked about this innovative or marketplace, and then there's also a variety of other tools and capabilities. Maybe, bring in like a Carlos or somewhere between him and Andy Stern to just give some feedback as, these capabilities are more promising and we'd like to explore this, or we'd like to get more of a dialogue going on that, would actually help them figure out the policy and the conceptual, right? So you have the tools, they have the power of the pen, and just maybe a couple, one or two interactions in this forum would help stimulate some of that. Does that?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. The more dialogue, the better. I'm all for dialogue.
Okay, well, that was a suggested agenda item, and I can go back on mute.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Steve, Ken, Brian, Laura, everybody else. But we do have another question from Eric. Actually, it's a comment. Sounds good. Thanks for the info and discussion. Definitely need to have a clear, connected path for progress to operations, etc. Okay. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and keep the floor open for another 10-15 seconds. If there are any other questions, raise your hand. We'll get you unmuted. You can talk. Anything you've heard today or anything else regarding the VLab? And it looks like we are question-free, and it's coming to the top of the hour. So I'm going to close out this meeting, make one more pitch to all the community and project owners. We'd like you to fill out your user profiles on the VLab. To access them, when you're logged in, you go up to your name on the upper right and click My Profile, and that'll take you into this area here where you can edit your profile. So we have a question.
No, I'm not seeing your screen.
Oh, hang on, my screen is paused. That would explain it. Let me go back and show you again what I did. In order to go to your profile, you click your username when you're logged in, and you click My Profile, and it takes you to that page. Let me go ahead and make this font a little smaller so you can see the whole thing. And then right under your picture, if it's in there, is an Edit Profile button. that you can click to edit all this information. You can add categories, tags, other things like that. The reason we want you doing this is because it's going to help for folks who are looking to find people with specific or similar expertise to their own, to get some connections and relationships made between members of different communities and things like that. So highly suggested, if you haven't filled out your profile, take about 5-10 minutes at some point and take care of that. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and adjourn. I will make a recording available both on the VLab, and I'll send a link, a YouTube link, and an email within the next day, and share that with anyone you think should probably have listened to what we were talking about. So that is all. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. See you in January.